The Legend of Zelda series has seen many remakes, from the Link's Awakening on the Game Boy Color to another Link's Awakening on the Switch made last year. And while we anticipate the release of the sequel to Breath of the Wild, it would be cool to relive some of our previous Zelda adventures on the Switch in higher definition. That's why for today's episode, we're going to be doing a top 7 list of the top 7 Legend of Zelda games that need to be remade on the Switch. Before we do that, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Number 7. The Legend of Zelda. This was the first Legend of Zelda game to be released. It's an open world game that has aged well despite being released almost 35 years ago. While it is the oldest game and has never had a true remake, the reason this isn't higher on the list is because the game is relatively short. Some things that would be nice to remake on this game would be the overall graphics, as well as making it a little more obvious where the secrets are hidden, and making the hints a little less cryptic. They also might want to pair this remake with a remake of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Those are just some of the reasons why I think it would be a good idea to make a remake for The Legend of Zelda on the Switch. Number 6. Four Swords Adventures. Although this game is often overlooked compared to the other Legend of Zelda games, I think a remake of this game would work really well because of the multiplayer aspect, as well as the story, and if you polish the graphics, it would look pretty nice. The only things I think they should change are the overall graphics, and they should probably make the story a little bit longer. Also, the multiplayer mode would be very fun if they made a remake, and they could do split screen instead of having you plug in a bunch of Game Boy Advances to play with your friends. The main reason this isn't higher on the list is because the game itself isn't very popular among Zelda players. Overall though, I think this would be a very unique game to make a remake of on the Switch. Number 5. Majora's Mask. Although this game got a remake in 2015, it was on the 3DS, which doesn't have the best graphics, and it would be good to have a higher quality home console remake of this game. Majora's Mask is one of the most popular Zelda games, as well as it having a great story and great characters. The only thing that I think they should change for a remake is just the overall animation quality. The only reason this game isn't higher on the list is because of the 3DS remake that it's already gotten. This game paired with a higher animation quality would be very fun to play. They could also reorchestrate the music to give it an overall better feel. They could also add more side quests and a few more masks to make it a little more interesting for people who have already played the game. Number 4. Ocarina of Time. Similarly to Majora's Mask, this game was an original N64 release and got a remake on the 3DS in 2011. Just like Majora's Mask, this is one of the most popular Zelda games, with its great story and its amazing overworld, as well as its music and its dungeon. Most of the things I think they should change for a remake of Ocarina of Time are the same as Majora's Mask, including enhancing the graphics, reorchestrating the music, and adding a little more side quests. Also, they could re-release this game with a remake of Majora's Mask and sell it as one game, or they could sell it as one game back to back, where once you finish Ocarina of Time, you go immediately to playing Majora's Mask, since they happen right after each other. Similarly to Majora's Mask, the only reason this game isn't higher on the list is because of its 3DS remake in 2011. Number 3. Oracle of Ages and Seasons. This game is very similar to Link's Awakening, which was re-released last year for the Switch. The story in this game is really good, but since it's a 2001 Game Boy Color release, the graphics would need a serious upgrade for it to be on the Switch. Some of the things they could do to remake it is reorchestrate the music, enhance the graphics, and add side quests, and they could also add the dungeon maker that they put in the 2019 re-release of Link's Awakening. Should also definitely include the two games together if they remake them, because the stories are completely tied together. It would also be interesting for a remake of this game to have the same art style as the 2019 re-release of Link's Awakening. This game is almost 20 years old, and it's never gotten a remake before, so I think it would be a great opportunity to make a remake of this game. Those are just some of the reasons of why Oracle of Ages and Seasons would be a great game to make a remake of. Number 2, Skyward Sword. Even though this game was only made 9 years ago, it would be a great game to remake for the Switch, as it fits really well with Breath of the Wild and its art style in general. It would also be really cool to see an upgrade to this, and to add more quests and even make the overworld a little bigger. Those are just some of the things that would be awesome about making a remake for Skyward Sword on the Switch. Also, there aren't very many games on the Switch that use its motion controls, and this would be a perfect opportunity to do it. Imagine having two Joy-Cons, just like the Wii Remote and the Nunchuck from the original Skyward Sword. Those are just some of the reasons why I have Skyward Sword as number 2 on my list of my top 7 Legend of Zelda games that I think would need a remake on the Switch. Also, another important thing about Skyward Sword is that its story is the most important out of all of the Zelda games, because it shapes the story of all of the other games, because it takes place before all of them. Now for some honorable mentions. A Link Between Worlds, Phantom Hourglass, A Link to the Past, Spirit Tracks. The reasons I didn't put those on the list is because they were made recently, or they had a recent remake, or I didn't think they were good games to make remakes for. Now for the Legend of Zelda game that I think needs a remake the most on the Switch. Let's try that again. Number 1, the Minish Cap. This game was made in 2004, and it's said by many to be the best 2D Zelda game that's ever been made. Also, the story and the art style would work really well with a remake on the Switch. And it also plays an important role, similarly to Skyward Sword, in the Zelda timeline. Also, if they reorchestrated their music, added better animation style, and they also added more side quests, and even made the map a little bigger, it would be the perfect remake of a Zelda game for the Switch. Also, similarly to the 2019 remake of Link's Awakening, they could add the dungeon builder, which would be very interesting to make dungeons based off of the Minish Cap's dungeon. Also, this is the last game to feature the evil wizard Vati, who is one of the most popular Legend of Zelda antagonists in the series. This would be the absolute perfect game to make a remake for on the Switch. That's why I think The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap is the best game to remake for the Switch. Especially since it's a 2004 Game Boy Advance release that hasn't had any remakes yet. So what do you think? What Legend of Zelda games do you think need a remake on the Switch? Tell me in the comments below. And remember to like and subscribe if you like this content. Thanks for watching Terminal Velocity. I'll see you again next time.